7/2021. To remind my colleagues, you got to push the little button to make sure your microphone is working if you want to be heard in the midst of this thronging crowd. I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Dr. Ketchel,
Yes.
Mr. Vanderwiller,
Yes.
Ms. Gaines,
Yes.
The protest items are listed on your agenda. We will take them in the order in which they have been printed, which means we begin with 1279 Maya Properties LLC, First Mark. It is a commercial property. What I usually do is read what I have in writing in front of me, and then let you add anything you want, of course. We don't usually see the full presentation that you're presenting until the hearing itself. So if there are very important matters that you're having vetted somewhere, do let us know. But I'll read the parts that are in the official protest format. The assessor's previous value, assessor's previous value is $5,746,200. They're planning to leave it at that. That's their proposal. This property board is listed at 1311 North Ash Street in Owasso. He is appealing the stated value to be adjusted down to a correct value of $3,900,000. The assessor says that it is worth less, also income value and sales comparisons. Now, as I said, I haven't seen this packet here for your, that's the Brookwood Apartments, I think is what we're talking about. And you go through any part of it you want to. The rest of you have that packet, or it's just me? Okay, they've got it too.
Well, I'll just go through the bullet points
Sure.
on the third page. You have the facts there. We believe that the buyer made a conscious decision to purchase the property, of course, but we feel like he probably overreached a little bit. He's a small private equity fund out of Houston, and he's actively looking for purchases. He picked Tulsa because he thought it was a good city with some growth available to it. So he was actively looking. So we did an income approach evaluation on it based on what the owner had given us. We also looked for sales comps, and it's an older complex in that in Owasso, we looked up for comps. Most of the comps we found were very new, whereas this was built in 1974. And we could not find anything that was comparable in that city at that age. So we did pull some comps more in Tulsa and found at the age that this property was, and I think we found some good ones. One of the things that I have a problem with on this property is before the sale, the assessor's value on this was,
$2,666,100. Is that the previous market?
That's what it was.
Yeah.
And then as soon as it sold, the assessor took it up basically to exactly the purchase price. I feel like either the assessor is correct, or the guy paid too much for the property. It's awfully strange that I just feel that that's doubled the price. It's $3 million difference.
Right.
So I just feel that we feel like there's an adjustment should be made.
is the, it is obvious, and you'll tell you the same thing we hear all the time, which is if it's an arm's length sale, they assume what you pay for it establishes the new fair market value. That's kind of the rule of thumb that the assessor's office always uses. So I think that's why you got what you got in front of you right now. Doesn't mean the board can consider other things, but that's what happens. The only other thing I was looking through here, did you give us any information about the current kind of occupancy?
Yeah, we gave you a rent roll.
Rent roll ready, yeah.
Rent roll and income statement on the property.
How's it been doing in terms of percentages?
It's been doing fairly good. It's not, I mean, perfect by any stretch, but it is an older property and it doesn't need a ton of work, but it needs a little. It's not going to have to be redone or anything like that.
Is it, I'm just looking at your rent roll now, do you have a rough percentage of what you've been doing in the last year that you can tell the board? In terms of, oh, here we go, 95% occupied, it's what it shows on page 4, the very last page of your.
Right.
Okay. And it has that, in terms of the information they've given you, is that they've been fairly successful over the last 2 or 3 years, is that right?
Well, I think he's only owned it 1 year.
No, I know, but I was just trying to wonder why he was paying all this money if he was looking at their rent rolls or something before he bought it.
A lot of these guys, they put a fairly low cap rate on these things to get them under their umbrella.
Sure.
So I think that was some of it, thinking that, you know, real estate goes up, so got to catch it.
Keep hoping.
Yeah.
Well, those were the 2 main kind of issues I almost always ask when I'm looking at a big property like this. We're going to ask the assessor's staff to give us his sense of why they are leaving it at that minute. But before we go forward, does any board member have something you want to ask at this stage of our?
I don't at this point.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Do you have this sheet?
Yes. And if I have typos on it, I'm sorry. I'm not the
Item 1 there says the property was purchased in 2020 for way too much. And then that was item 1, and item 5, the assessor's value before the sale says the assessor put the value on this property before it sold far below what it sold for. So has it sold since?
No, I think that was a mistake on my part. They put these, before it sold, the value of the property was $2,666,000. Okay, so before it sold, once it sold, the assessor moved the value up to what the sales price was. Very close to it, I think within $1,000, a couple of $1,000.
So personally, I feel that I'm in a quandary here. Here's some knowledgeable people exchanged money and property, but then you say it's way too much.
Well, probably way, if not a little bit over the top.
It's too
Some.
much.
Do I believe this property is worth 2.7 million? No, I believe it's worth more than that. So I believe he paid too much for it based on the information that I have and what the assessor did. So that's what we came up with.
Okay, well, then one last comment. Item 3, sales comps. Says recent sales of apartment complexes in the area and the same age show that the value is too high. So. and I was
Okay.
reading.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So how much too high? You have a number?
well, I have 3.9, but I mean, if you took out the assessor's value, it would go up. I'm thinking something like if you took the assessor's value and I mean, you took what they paid and what the assessor value was, and that comes up to, I'm sorry, what is it right now?
the proposed current market value is 577,462.
Oh, okay. So if you subtracted those and then divided by 2, you meet the middle.
Maybe in half.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Or start at 1 and then work yourself.
It's the Solomon approach.
Yes, it's an old Solomon.
What about, Charles, did you look at his income where he did that? He ends up there with almost 5,496,5142.
I didn't run the total.
Yeah, that was the other bit of information that seemed to be moved in towards supporting where the assessor came out, but it is, almost $1 million lower. So that is the difference. Anyway, those were the two things that kind of caught my eye off the top.
I kind of use a number of different approaches and then average them.
Sure.
So it went from 2.1 to 5.7. That's a big old jump.
Huge jump.
Well, we're gonna let the assessor staff defend that big old jump now. Is that okay? Please identify yourself for us.
Exactly, Tulsa County Assessor's Office.
Okay, here we go.
Interesting points here. The new projects that have come online in Owasso indicate the recent demand for apartment units. So I was surprised to hear that there were sales comparables in that Owasso market for this vintage. As you can see, it's that 60s, 70s product that's really been well maintained, and the economics upon our review showed that it's a strong property. There's a lot of demand in Owasso. We're getting ready to talk about Jinx too. There's a lot of demand in Jinx. I mean, there's strong school districts. Here, we're trying to find information on deferred maintenance. Really couldn't find any. I reviewed the rent roll. I reviewed all the financials. I've seen a lot of that stuff, so kind of understood if there was something that would have stuck out, and nothing stuck out. So let me present to you these slides. It's a garden style property known as Brookwood, 86th Street North and 169. That's the approximate location of this property, built in 1970. 10 apartment buildings and clubhouse. Okay. We have swimming pool, playground, basketball court, just a few amenities. Page 2. This is where we're at. And you can see 169 transversing north-south. We're just to the west of that. Interesting amenities that aren't specific to the property, but in the neighborhood. You have the elementary school and the 7th grade center walking distance from the property. That's a strong location. Let's look at the sales history here. Sold January 8th of 2020 for 5.75. That's 57.5 a unit.
This property sold. Okay.
Yeah. So verified that with courthouse records, and we verified that with even his paperwork on the sale. So how we do things in the assessor's office is we get a sale of a property, and we look at the business personal. So we made a deduction at that time for the business personal value that we have on our books too. That was about $3,800. It was nominal, but we still deducted for it. That's where we adjusted our market value. Okay, that's why we adjusted it. And again, it's been hard to track in Owasso and some of these nice suburbs of Tulsa. with this kind of product. So whenever one sells, historically, we might be a little low. Whenever one sells, we get a good idea of the data point of where properties like this would transact. So I ran an income approach on it, right, that we've seen many times before. I relied on the rent roll and the financial performance of the property specifically. At the informal, we use just more mass appraisal technique and applying what we generally see for a lot of properties with this age and condition and class. But in this case, I took it down and I said, if I applied the actual rent roll, if I applied the actual financial history, where would I land? So here's the fresh review. I used the submarket occupancy. As you can see, that's lower than how it's doing. Didn't we say it was 95?
Yeah.
So one thing I see a lot as well, whenever they submit income, I try to educate on this. They're reimbursing for the water, sewer, and trash. And a lot of times that gets left out, so we leave value on the table. So here I added it in. That's exactly what they're getting in other income. So potential incomes cast at market rates, 92%. We get to 45 on other income. So our effective income that this property is deriving is that 1 million figure. The expenses of 49 or 44.9%, that's in light green. That's my figures. On the left-hand column is his figures. It's a little high on his side, and I get it. We're just trying to figure out the economics of a property in this submarket, but really this is a clean, older property. So about 45% overall. I pulled the taxes out, the real estate taxes, and net operating income came to 556,000 figure. Okay. Now, this property probably sold if I had the actual financials from the broker. It probably sold below an 8, but I use an 8. Let me tell you a little bit about what's going on with multifamily throughout this pandemic. If you think about single family residential and it's a hot demand market because interest rates are historically low, well, it's low for these commercial real estate investors too. And the multifamily commercial real estate sector has remained resilient. Occupancies remain strong. So out of everybody that's getting hurt through this, multifamily is not one. They kind of go hand in hand with housing in the single family side. So I'm using a very generous 8% cap rate, and then I actually load it, making that cap rate higher. And we know that relationship between income, rate, and value. So if I increase the rate, then the value is going to go down. I'm still at 6 million after I deduct for business personal property that we have on our books, which is a little higher. So round off 6 million, I'm at 60 a unit. I don't really know. I don't really understand the point of view from the agent. So that's kind of why we're here today.
Sure.
But it was just a cross check for me to say that sell price still good. It's at least worth that based on my income approach. Now, if we want to look at some of the mortgage and financing information, based on our resources, we have one called CoStar. It's a standard for everybody that's in commercial real estate. It's a standard source of information. It appears that it appraised November of 19 for 5.825. So another line of support there. Here's if I run all 3 approaches. We know the cost approach, there's so much depreciation out there that we just don't really rely on that. We're looking more at the sales and we're looking at the income. I'm saying this is worth $6 million. That's above what it's on for today. And I'll yield to the board with that.
What was the occupancy rate that you?
I used 92%.
92%.
I think it's actually 95. So.
And did you try to find any comps in the Owasso area? He didn't have much luck with that, as he said, I think.
Yeah, it's hard to find comps of this with these characteristics, like the 60s, 70s. Now things have sold.
Okay.
Things have sold in Owasso that are apartment projects, but we're talking about really nice apartment projects that wouldn't be comparable to
I
this.
mean, new, no. Is that
Yeah,
what you're
new.
saying?
Yeah.
Well, this is an older, but obviously it's been well-maintained property. It's still doing that kind of business. Any other questions from the board here before we try to respond? Zach, does anybody want to ask Zach something about what you showed us there on the screen?
Can I say something?
Oh, of course. No, I was going to give you the next shot. You usually get the last one.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
No, no, that's fine. Go. No, no.
Well, I think, sorry. last name is right?
Zach.
Okay, Zach.
That's good.
Okay, I'll come to I think his expenses, can you go back to the profit and loss statement?
I thought you said you were using the ones he gave you. You just redid them or?
They call it restructuring them, and that's appraisal practice. I basically took everything that would be allowable,
Oh, I see.
you know?
It would be nice if it was possible for me to take his information and restructure it and combat this, but he took my information because he had my information. I didn't have his information, and came up with this. So I think the expense ratio is too low, obviously. And there's some other items in there that underneath some of his numbers, I don't have.
Well,
But
that's without taxes. So like that second rate, that 9.2 cap rate, which is well above what you would see in the marketplace, it's actually accounting for taxes. You know, we discussed yesterday.
yeah, I remember that discussion.
I want to send you this stuff, so.
Yeah. So,
Okay, go ahead. I wanted you to finish your comment about the expenses. You think that that 44, 45 versus your 55, is that what you're looking at, or is it
yes,
something else?
yes, it would be, if I had that, I could get the actual expenses were, but you know, in structured time, can't do that. There's a number in my head that I can easily determine the number of expenses per a door, whether it's high or low, and I can't see that there, but I mean, we had the actual profit and loss statement. I don't think the guy manufactured something to make it look good.
And your actual profit law is what you were using to generate your income approach? Is that what you're saying, or what?
Yeah, the income approach. Now, on the taxes in there, on the profit and loss statement that he delivered to us, he didn't pay taxes, the complete amount of taxes. I don't know why, if he only paid a half that was in that financial statement or what, but that's why on this page it looks low, because he didn't pay all the taxes in that year. He may have paid most of it in 1 year and then most of it in the next year. I don't know.
The number you're talking about is on your income statement, it's the 19,006. So
Yeah, that's way too low. His taxes weren't that low, but I think he paid like half of them and then the other half.
Isn't, I'm trying to remember, Zach, isn't the practice that we always remove the property taxes when we try?
Yes, to avoid a situation where it'd be prorated or something like that. Yeah, so we pull them out in this on my side and then load it. That's what we
In the
call.
cap rate, you mean?
Yeah, so that the going in cap rate's 8, and then if you load it, it's 9.2. That's what was applied to get the 6 months.
6.
Me and Zach had a discussion on that. He does not like the way I put my income approach together.
I
It
just try to
basically,
educate.
okay, I've been doing this
We're
for
gonna
32
educate.
years. I know a little bit about
Oh, my goodness.
it. So it actually comes out very similar, but what I do is I try to use the numbers that are in the financial statement so people can go back to them and actually see them. So anyway,
And that financial statement you did provide.
Yes, I have it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other, I don't mean to stop you.
but I'm fine.
Okay, so we got a little bit of a thing about the expenses, people that were hearing some disagreement about the way you try to incorporate those in the final fair market value. Any other questions from the board before we come up with some number that,
Problem I've got is we had a willing buyer and a willing seller. And that number apparently was 5.7. And that's a quantum leap from what the previous market was, 2.666. So I guess willing to move a little bit. That's a staggering number.
sure, that's the most obvious big number shift between the two positions that are being presented before. His comment about that was that this is an out-of-state buyer, and he's trying to pull a lot of money to work quickly. But the truth of the matter is, as you can see it from the board or the county's perspective, we're not here to correct mistakes that real estate purchasers make. We do run into those.
Oh, I know.
You know. My own inclination, by the way, I'll just come out with it, is I just picked this number from his income value, the one that was the 4965, because I was trying to come down a little bit from this double or nothing leap that we had in 1 year. My question, Zach, to you is if we do a pretty big adjustment, which is that one, are you guys stuck with it, or can you come back and review this property a year from now in terms of their current performance or other sales? I mean, I don't mean to stick you for 5 years, is what I'm trying to, when I make an adjustment. It's that big.
I think that the fair market value was established when it was purchased. I think the assessor has shown that that value is holding up.
Yeah.
I would vote to sustain.
Okay. Charles, you get to decide between us. I'm willing to go down, I'll just round and say the 5 million. She's really wanting to stick close to that 6 million. What do you think? What's my numbers?
5.2. Yeah, right there, right.
Oh, 5.2.
Well, we've got another number then, 5.2. What do you feel about that, Ruth? Are you willing to adjust down?
Yeah.
Okay. Charles, you're gonna have to move that. I think that's all we can do for you today in terms of the presentation to the board. Okay. On
So
this problem.
you need a motion from me?
Yeah, make the motion.
I move that we set the fair value at 5,200,000.
Second motion.
It's been moved and seconded by the board to adjust the fair market value on this property to 5,200,000 even. We'll vote as the roll is called to adjust.
Dr. Ketchel,
Yes.
Mr. Van Willen, Ms.
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Yes, that is the fair market value based on the presentations today. It's getting worse. But if you can't read it, I'll try it.
Get a call at midnight.
You know? And let's see, today's 27, right?
Yes. Going forward, I can do that.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Now, this is here. All that stuff. I think this is- Okay, thank you. We move on, board, to the second item on our agenda, which is item number 1280, TJS Properties LLC, First Marco, another commercial property. Let me read what I had in the printed form that he has submitted, and then we'll give him a chance to speak to it. And Zach, of course. The assessor's previous value on this property was $2,886,500. They're proposing to leave it at that. He believes it should be corrected to a value of $2,300,000 even, based on the income value and sales comp shown of this lower value. And then he has this is the village on the green apartments in St. Jake's. And that's what he has given us to run through with him. Okay, go for it.
Pretty much the same thing that we said on the other. We looked at the income approach, we did sales comps. On this property is an older complex.
Is it a recent purchase though, right?
Yes, it is a
Oh,
recent
it
purchase.
is.
I don't know. Do you know when it sold?
I do.
Because it didn't change that much from the previous markets. The reason I raised that question.
Sold July 22nd, 2019.
That's pretty recent. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no problem. So anyway, the assessor's value was lower than the sale deal. And then doing a pro forma value with the rent roll and expenses, we came up with a lower value. 2.35. Yeah. Sales comp value of 2.5.
When was this property built? 74. I see it now.
74.
Thank you. I just-
Like a trend, doesn't it?
Yeah,
A lot of stuff built back then.
sure. Well, Jake's is a good market. There's no question. And so is Owasso, actually. They both are. What else? Do you want to point something else out in this packet other than your income approach and your pro forma?
A lot.
How about the sales comp that you
Yeah, this
found?
sales comps that we found, didn't find a lot, but we tried to get something that was outside of Tulsa, more of a small town, a suburb. Youth.
Well, the Broken Arrow ones, the age comes the closest to what you're showing us today. That's your second.
Mhm.
And one at the bottom too, also Parkwood Gardens. And rating here is both B and C. Is your sense of rating on this one a C or a B? Did you put it in here and I just didn't notice it?
I'm sorry, what?
Is it rated in your complexes? Are you rating this a B or a C for comparison in those sales comps? They rate it that way.
I would say a C. I mean, it's kind of what we consider an A is not an A in, say, Dallas or something like that. So, but if you go past that, I mean, I don't think it would be, since it's the age of it, you could throw in the C part. But anyway,
Was there a picture? Oh, is it up? No. Did we have a picture of him you're going to show us? Okay. Because I was looking at his pictures. They're pretty modest apartments in the main here that he's used for his comparisons. I interrupt here, but was there something else that before we let Zach have his shot at it?
I apologize in my sales comps. I I know that number 4 is a inaccurate sale. So,
For the schedule or this, no, this, he's talking, oh, okay, pictures, right?
yeah, number 4 in here. I know for a fact that that sale was, I don't know, fraudulent.
Oh,
So,
Was what?
number
fraudulent.
Oh, well, that's what I thought you said.
So anyway, I apologize. I didn't realize.
So
I
if you
should've.
kicked it out, what would?
well, it
Hope
means
that
you have
sales
another
approach.
3 or 4.
Anyway,
No, I said, if you took the fraudulent one out, what would your sales approach?
oh, I don't know. I do this like, but it actually, it's, that would be about 50, so it would be,
To make it
maybe
higher
go
or
up.
lower?
maybe go up just a tad. Okay.
Two most, well, let's see here, there it is. It looks more upscale to me than in the picture anyway, good photograph, than the 2 of the other, the 1970 page ones here we got. Is comp, number 2 is the one built in 73, and then his final comp at the bottom, number 5, was also built in 74, and they are much less attractive, at least in the picture. Both of them look to be less, at least they don't have curb appeal. The one on the television screen shows us right now. Okay,
Does this have any brick? Or is it all siding?
looks like it's all siding.
Okay, all right.
Village on the Green Apartments in Jinx. Okay, Zach, take us through what you think we need to know.
Zach Wade, Tulsa County Assessor's Office, another great suburb bedroom community of Tulsa. Village on the Green Apartments, built 1974, consists of 6 two-story buildings, has a clubhouse. It's there on Plaza Drive. On page 1 here, you can see, here's a street map, area map. Adjacent to the library, just behind McDonald's. The closest competitor, if you guys have driven down Elm in recent 10 years, you'll see the Reserve and Elm Apartments by Reese's, really top-notch property. These people have to rent somewhere, and if they can't afford Reserve at Elm, that's holding up occupancy at Village on the Green, okay? We're located off Main at Elm Street. It did sell in 2019 for 2.9. Our current market value is 28665. The reason why that's a little lower is because we deducted for business personal property, as we always do when they sell. Again, this is another case that we just found as a check and cross check of reasonableness that the value is still strong. The sale was 2.9 for a little over 60 a unit. We're still a little over 60 unit at the current assessor value. Moving on to page 2, another workup where I got the financials. That's the financial performance of this property from Mr. Tim Bales, and I got the rent roll. We restructure these things. So my potential income for this property is based on the recent 2020 rental rates that this property actually received on the rent roll, right? The recent tenants, that's going to be a benchmark for market, okay? The submarket says that the occupancy is 97%, very strong, again. So other income, we just talked about that on the last one. We got to bring that in. That's the reimbursement to the landlord for the water, sewer, and trash. They don't just provide those services for free. They want to get it back. So we have to bring that in. So that's from the financials. I, again, have expenses here that are the actual expenses. I didn't see any red flags. I'm looking through those financial statements. I'm trying to see if there's large capital items that were expenditures that we need to pull out, and there were none. So I used it, and I pulled out the taxes, as we talked about. I gave the cap rate a load. I said this is a little bit more competitive market, and it actually sold according to the real estate agent or broker, as they would call it, for 7.26 cap rate. I'm using a 7.5, and then I loaded it at 8.9. So if you take out, or if you go ahead and apply that cap rate, you get a market value of a little over 2.9, and you take out the business personal, I came to a value of 287, which is really close to where we're at. So that's why this was denied at the informal level. Again, that's a little under 60 a unit. So the appraisal was for 2.9. So it appraised in May of 2019 per the commercial mortgage backed security data that we have on this property. It appraised for 2.9. And the loan to value ratio is what we see in the marketplace, about 20, 25, 30%. Okay. So here's my approaches to value. Cost approach was a little bit more in line this time for this property. Again, it's just case by case with the depreciation and land sales and some things like that. But I'm not relying on that. I'm relying more on the recent sale, which is supported really closely by the income approach. So I'm saying that this property is worth what we have it on for at 28865. And I'll yield to the board.
Is there, did you, other than showing us that one map graphic, was there sales comparisons that you had at Jinx that you talked about that I missed?
Brookwood.
Yeah.
But we go over that one. So you could use Brookwood. So it's, if you're looking for comparable markets, Owasso, Jinx, and you're looking for older stuff, these two support each other.
All right, board, other questions? I kind of hit the usual ones that I ask. This is your document.
Yeah,
Item 4, item 3, the property is an older apartment complex that should not have been purchased at such a low cap rate.
oh, that was just a redo from the last one. I mean, a copy of it. I apologize. I do have quite a few protests.
Copiers are handy, huh?
I think what they show here on our green sheet, which is the other thing they show us, is that last year they essentially had it at this, right? Isn't that right, Zach? Your previous market was 28865 also.
That's great.
That's because that's the new number that it was given once it's sold.
Okay, but that was 219, right? So that-
Yeah, it sold 219. So then last year into 2020 is when they redid it.
but it hadn't changed since then. is the point I was making, right?
Hasn't from this year to last year. It has not.
That's it.
That's
was
right.
all that I was-
And the only
That's
reason
all
is
it
because I wasn't the property tax consultant
I
last
see.
year.
Okay,
Can I say something?
please.
Okay, this has been very enlightening. It's interesting to know that whatever information I give the assessor, they're going to use it against me in some way. So, and I cannot do that for them because I can't get any information from them. I don't think that's fair. But I disagree with his financial for the reasons that the expense ratio is huge. I mean, 18 points. My God.
Whereas, the difference between total expense 60 and 42, that's what you're
Right.
talking about.
Right.
And what you're saying is the actual expenses reported to you on the financial statement from the owner is that 60%.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying? Okay,
Yes.
we'll let
Usually
Zach-
smaller apartments, number of units.
Yeah.
Have higher expense ratios because you still have to have a manager.
Sure.
You still have to have maintenance people, even though you have less units.
But what they have to do is put that over against the income. You're still showing them, right?
Yeah, but I think they just wanted to stay at around the 42
But the income from your viewpoint is accurate, right? I mean, that.
The
net rent-
income,
Net rental income.
whatever. Is the effective income on there that you have for me is what I gave you?
It
Okay.
was, I thought the 407 was what you gave.
Yeah,
Okay, just a minute here. Zach explained to me and all of us what is the difference between effective income listed in the first column, which as I understood was from his financial report at 407, 462. Is that correct or not?
Speaking to the effective, I just basically pulled everything that he had. So I mean, we can just, it's in his paperwork. So I feel like part of our job here at the assessor's office is also to inform and educate and make aware of procedure and practice in the appraisal world and how we do things. And I'm not trying to, I'm just trying to make this statement just for us all to be educated on it. But you, if he's using the actual expenses, that's 60.5%, and he didn't take taxes out, and then he loaded the cap rate again, he's double dipping taxes.
no, I didn't do that. I add the taxes back into the net operating income. We talked about that yesterday.
I know, I don't think you do it that way, but again, we differ.
You
We
can
differ on a lot of
understand
things.
that that's the same thing?
I'm not trying to strike any chords. I'm just trying to represent appraisal practice. So that's all I'm trying to do. Now, that's why we were speaking about the operating expense ratio being a little high. So that's all I'm saying. Okay. I'm just trying to educate and inform based on these classes we take and how they teach them. So that's how we were different.
Look, if I take the expenses out in the income statement and then I add them back, it's like they weren't taken out to begin with. The reason I do that is that so you can see the actual number, okay?
We can agree to disagree, and that's why we have the board. So
Well, let's look at where in your presentation, where do you show us that
Here.
action that you're just now talking about, so the board
On the
understands. what-
2020 profit and loss statement,
This one, or?
what's it come up with?
What, in
2190 at the bottom, 2190.
Let me look here. Yeah,
Okay,
2190, yeah.
okay, so,
That's the income value of the subject property.
all right, what I do is I take the gross income that they report on their financial statement.
Yeah,
Okay.
407, 462.
And that's what you have, and that includes all the rubs, all the reimbursements, all income, okay, so the gross income. Then I go down to the bottom and get the net, okay? And that's the 181, okay? That's the net that's on the financial statement.
The operating income is what you're saying on this
Right.
page. Yes.
It's before, a lot of times they'll go ahead and they'll put in like, interest and depreciation, all that stuff. We can't do that. That's not, everybody knows, you don't put that in there. Okay. I take a replacement reserve. Some people don't, fine, whatever. So I take that away from here. I apply a normal cap rate, 7.7. That's, I don't think that's out of line. And that comes up with a value of 2,092,000. Okay.
Yeah.
Then I take the same number, the same net, okay, 161. Okay, see that? Okay, and I add,
Whoa, just a minute.
I'm sorry,
Oh, got it. Okay, I was still fixated on the 181. Okay, I got it.
and the only reason there's a difference is because I take a replacement
I
reserve. Some
see
people
that,
do,
yeah.
some people don't.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have the net again, and here's where I add the taxes back. Okay, I add it to the net because we took it out and now we're putting it back because we can't use it. Okay. And there you have the net income and the taxes, with a total net income of $201,000. And then I use the loaded cap rate on that.
The 9.2, which is how you end up with the 2190.
Right.
I'm always a little confused about the treatment of the taxes. I thought there was an attempt to remove them, to say, yes, that's an expense, but you can't show it as a part of your assessed valuation. Is that what you're?
That's what I did. That's what I did. See, it's the net income and the plus the taxes. Okay. You can't use the taxes as an expense.
That's an expense.
Okay, so if I add it back to the net, I'm not using it as an expense.
Why doesn't that feel like you are using it as an expense when you add it back? In my head, I'm just trying to understand that.
If that wasn't an expense, would the net income be higher or lower?
It'd be higher.
Yeah, and so
That was where you.
the net income by not using the expense was 161, and the net income with the taxes is 201. So it's higher.
Charles, you're the CPA. I mean, is that accounting practice from your viewpoint?
I'm not trying to make a mirage. I'm trying to use numbers that you can actually see on the financial statement.
I get it. I mean, I agree with you. That's what I assume you should try to do. Charles, what about that? Am I just too fixated on, because I was always get the taxes off the table, and now I want to know what you think the property is
In
worth.
my world, taxes are just another dollar paid out. But I'm not an assessor.
Well, and then you would treat it as an expense to add.
Yeah, I mean, I look at these and I think, well, why did you take it out even in the first place?
I see.
That dollar was paid just like every other dollar was paid.
I thought you couldn't creep it in terms of, again, assessment procedure, not accounting procedure.
Yeah, I don't know.
That says essentially you can't, when you're doing an assessment on the value of the property, that's all we ever look at finally is fair market value. What is a willing buyer and a seller theoretically today, as the board makes its decision, willing to pay to get control of this property and achieve the income flow, et cetera, et cetera. And that's why in my mind, I had always removed taxes, because legislator may change them, the ratios can go up and down year to year. So I can't see how you can treat that as as part of valuing something, assessing it. That's where I get stuck.
I'm not using it as a value
Okay.
because I'm adding the taxes back into the net. I'm not using them as an expense.
What if I said the real income is the one you show us, the 181,459, and that's the income that I want to see down here as the net income on this property. So I'm giving you a better break by not treating the taxes. Now I'm going to let Zach explain why I'm wrong here in a minute.
You're saying.
Well, my
use the
question is, are the
185.
taxes the thing that's moving the value of this, or are we looking at the entire?
Well, we finally look at the entire, I'm just trying to figure out how we get to a number like his value is 2,190,455, and that's the value you got to by.
What did the property sell for in 2019?
2.9.
2.9.
You know, I mean, if you want to use 181 and use this cap rate. Cool.
Zach,
If I may.
explain to me how you think the taxes, and anyway, if this is, maybe I'm being too complicated here, I'm just trying to understand the numbers, how they get.
I'm just trying to get a full, is
Because they are different, and so that's why I'm saying.
that the only difference, That the
How
biggest
they
difference?
treat the taxes.
Other than the value of the property itself that I
Well,
feel
yeah.
like should be sustained, I'm just saying, so whenever you pull out the taxes and then you load that rate, you're adjusting for the taxes, right? So you're actually, there's a circular relationship between market value and taxes. So appraisal practice would be to adjust the taxes to the market value that's here. So that's what we do. And that's why we load the rates.
After all is said and done, an investor is trying to come up with a cap rate. Taxes were paid, just like everything else was paid. I don't see why it would be coming out.
Again, that's a good point.
It's an expense, in my opinion.
It is. I understand that. And so a lot of times the brokers that represent in these transactions, they'll provide, here's the actual cap rate based on actual information. This is the pro forma cap rate. And they'll adjust those taxes up because a lot of times property sells for more. So they'll adjust them up to, so that the parties involved will be well educated as to, well, it's actually, the taxes are going to be higher because the assessor will likely raise it. So that's why we make sure and load it so it will raise those taxes. So, that's it. That's
That's what we did.
You could take a whole course on that.
But he sold for 2.9 in 2019. It's got a 97% occupancy rate. Is that correct?
I
I think
understand.
he showed a 92, your report
yeah.
shows a
You
92.
said 90, what is the
92.
occupancy rate?
Pull that
92.
one out.
Or is that the other one?
Okay, we need to move to a decision here, maybe just my confusion. I'm used to not talking about the taxes, that's where I come from, really. I'm willing to move to sustain, but what are other members of the board? That is, it seems to me, based on, as you were saying, Ruth, based on the 2019 actual sale, which is pretty recent, but that they're not raising the tax, they're not raising the assessment, they're leaving it alone, just like it was last year. That seems fair to me. Okay, that is, I'm willing to vote to sustain the 28865. Are other members of the board have a different idea? Please speak.
I have one last question. Item 4, I think it's probably your document. Says the assessor put the value of this property before it sold far
Yeah,
below what it sold.
That was it. I already addressed. I'm sorry, I already addressed that. That it was just a copy of what I
Okay,
did before.
all right.
You didn't mean it this time. You meant it last.
I was losing it, so.
Anyway, any other idea? Otherwise, I will move to sustain if I have
I'll
support.
second that motion.
Okay. It's been moved by the chair to sustain, and Ms. Gaines has voted the second, so we'll vote as the roll is called to sustain.
Dr. Ketchel,
Yes.
Mr. Vanderwall,
Yes,
Ms. Gaines,
Yes,
The board has acted to sustain this value at the assessor's current value, $2,886,500. Oh, you don't want me to put dates on? Okay. Yes. The next two properties kind of hang together. As I understand the statement anyway, but we'll let the representatives say what you do with them. There's two protest items are 1281 and 1282, SB 174 LLC, First Mark Commercial. The first one, the 81-1 is at 4111 East 52nd Street, Tulsa, Oklahoma. And that's the Avery Park Apartments. And am I correct that you're wanting to deal with these as a total economic unit, the both properties, or you want to separate?
No, the values are separated.
Okay, we'll deal with,
But there's an agreement.
We've already
Oh.
agreed.
On these two.
well, you guys,
Sorry.
wear myself out here.
Yeah.
No, I'm pleased. Okay, I need to just have what, Zach, are you gonna state the agreement for me?
It's in yellow.
I'll read this out loud and you affirm it. Okay, on this first property, the one on our protest agenda, 1281, the agreed upon value is 3,978,000 even. And if I was to state that, I will simply state it as an agreement between the owner and the assessor. Okay. Therefore, I move to accept this agreement of the 3,978,100,000 even. Is there a second to my motion? Second. It's been moved and seconded to accept the agreement of this fair market value. We'll vote as the roll is called.
Dr. Ketchel,
Yes.
Mr. Van Dwelling,
Yes.
Ms. Gaines.
Yes.
So ordered by action of the board, then. The next item on our agenda is 1282. It was previously on for 2,577,000. That was the proposed current value, but after discussion of the agreed new value presented to the board for this property is 2,100,000. I so move that the board affirm this as an agreement between the owner and the assessor. Second. It's been moved and seconded. We'll vote as the roll is called to adjust to the new value of 2,100,000.
Dr. Ketchel,
Yes.
Mr. Van Dwelling,
Yes.
Ms. Gaines.
Yes.
Board so acts, and we have adjusted this fair market value by agreement. Now, I will go ahead and read everything, but do we have another agreement?
No, I pulled those.
Okay, all right. Is this, the next three are all listed, 1283, 1284, 1285, as being owned by the same firm? Is it to be treated as a one economic unit, or are we dealing with separate properties here?
Okay, I pulled those.
Oh, the agenda, I didn't.
Yeah,
I should know that.
Okay,
So is that the
Sorry.
last three items on the list?
that's right. So what I just need to
You need to make a motion for each one.
remove them from the agenda for. each
Withdraw.
one. Withdrawal, okay. Let me go through that procedure then. Protest item 1283, Albion International, Tulsa, Oklahoma. We have been informed by the tax representative this is to be withdrawn from our agenda today. I so move.
Second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded to withdraw. We'll vote as the roll is called.
Dr. Ketchel,
Yes.
Mr. Van Dwelling,
Yes.
Ms. Gaines.
Yes.
Debbie, for your purposes, do I need to write on here it's withdrawn? Okay, but it's just down in that part then, or do you want to say withdrawn up here?
Up there,
And then,
and also, yes, by
okay,
tax representative,
sure.
please.
That's not a problem if I could write legibly. Okay, that was the first one. The second one on our item today is 1284, the next one. It is also Albion International, Tulsa, Oklahoma. And we have been informed that by the owner's representative that we are to withdraw it from today's agenda. I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to withdraw. We'll vote as the roll is called.
Dr. Catchell,
Yes.
Mr. Van Willen,
Yes.
Ms. Gaines,
Yes.
So ordered by action of the board to withdraw from our agenda. Next item on our agenda is likewise item number 1285, Albion International of Tulsa, Oklahoma. And we have been informed by the owner's representative that they wish it to be withdrawn. I so move to withdraw.
Second motion?
It's been moved and seconded. We'll vote as the roll is called.
Dr. Catchell,
Yes.
Mr. Van Willen,
Yes.
Ms. Gaines,
Yes.
Oh, I believe that completes today's agenda of the board. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Second. It's been moved and seconded that the board should adjourn. We'll vote as the roll is called.
Dr. Catchell,
Yes,
Mr. Van Willen,
Yes.
Ms. Gaines.
Yes.
we are adjourned. Thank you all.
The
Thank
vote
you
to
so much.
adjourn. You have to vote to adjourn.
We did.